Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me on another episode. Today we're going to answer some comments that I got in the questions. We're going to, let's try that again. Let's answer some questions I got in the comments. Then we're going to restart the XS1 as it's got a software update, and I want to see what's new with the software update. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get with it. All right guys, so I'm at the XS1. You can see it in all its glory. Come down behind it and there's a power switch back here. I'll show you way in the back down the bottom. So you can see it right there. So we're gonna power that off. The XS1 is now off and we're gonna wait. About 30 seconds. Power it back on. Again guys, while we're waiting for that to reboot, I wanna show you real quick, the smudge marks on the LCD screen. So yeah, it does collect some smudge marks there. So you do have to wipe it down. That's just from the other day, but you definitely have to wipe it down. All right guys, we're powered back on. So let's see what happens. You can even see the smudge marks from here, fingerprint marks, but yeah, let's see what this does. Can't touch it, so I'm just gonna walk up to it, we'll see. Looks like it's probably rebooting because it usually doesn't take that long. System calibration and configuration in progress. Please do not stand on the force plate. That'll pretty much say that every time you shut this down and turn it back on. So like if you leave for vacation, you don't want to leave it on, you want to unplug it, it's gonna say that same thing every time. All right, let me do all this. Sorry about that, guys. It's gonna ask you to do an authorization and sign in code, which you have to do every time. It's pretty simple. So I'm hoping now this is gonna update. There it is. Cool. So far, my first firmware update is going smooth. Installing system update. All right, guys, so I'm unsure if this thing power cycled or not. I think it did based on what I was watching, but it wasn't super obvious. So now I'm gonna tap it, log into this, and then go to the verification process, which is to the about section, and see if it has the new version. So give me a minute here. Let's take a look at this. All right, let's tap, put my code in. You don't need that. Yep, that's me. Let's go. Begin pre-tension. I'm assuming that it actually, cycled through. I just missed it somehow. All right, guys. So I'm unsure if this thing power cycled or not. I think it did based on what I was watching, but it wasn't super obvious. So now I'm gonna tap it, log into this, and then go to the verification process, which is to the about section, and see if it has the new version. So give me a minute here. So let's go up here. Settings. Let me go about. Yeah, and that's the new. So let's go up here. Settings. Let me go about. So yeah, that's the new software version. 1.2.0.6. All right, guys, so today in this short video, we went over the software update. I'm also going to answer some questions that I had in the comments, specifically the measurements. Even though they're on the website, someone wanted the exact measurements to see if they're off, which I never really did. Again, but we'll cover that real quick. And then a couple other questions that we'll get to in a second here. And a couple other questions on how to do seated rows, like if you can plant your feet anywhere, how does it actually work? And I'll get into that a little bit when I demonstrate how I do it, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about with the machine itself. But it really won't be an issue. The only other questions I had were my thoughts on tonal versus OxeFit and tonal versus the Vitruvian system. So I might make separate videos on them. Right now I'm just going to answer comments. We did the software update, and I'll make another video later about my feelings on the OxeFit compared to the other two systems. All right, guys, so let's do the system unfolded first. So we'll get the base here. I'm going to put that right at the back and bring that all the way to the end here, which is, it's about 80 inches. So the base plate down to the wall is about 80 inches. So the OxeFit unfolded, the base plate's 80 inches. We got that covered. Let's move on to the height real quick. Put this here. We'll bring this up. Yeah, so hope you can see that, but that's 81 inches to the top. All right, guys, so as you can see, I have this base folded up. It's got some weight to it, but you can definitely fold it with one hand. But you can see it's folded up. So I'm gonna measure this as well. What we'll do is I'll measure it this way. I'm gonna hold the tape, since this is flush on this side, since it's flat on this side, I'm gonna hold the tape here. Then just bring it back. And I'm bringing it back to the back of the screen, which is basically the back of the floor plate. And that looks about 21 inches. So fold it up from the base plate, folded up to the back of the screen is about 21, maybe 21.5 inches. And now, because it doesn't change whether the plate's folded up or laying flat, the width is going to be about the same. We're just going to measure the base plate since it's literally the width of the machine. So we'll just go side to side. That's about 45 and a half if you want to give yourself some room. So that's about 45 and a half if you want to give yourself some room. All right, guys, so hopefully that answers your question of the actual measurements. Now, to go over them, if you look on the OxeFit website, the only real discrepancy I see is with the height itself, the actual height of the machine. They have on their website 78 inches, and I measured 81. So there's that discrepancy. As far as the width, as far as the depth of the machine, it's literally the same. Maybe if you're off by like a ½ inch tops, and that might not even be off. It might just be them being generous, giving you a little bit more space depending on the space availability you have in your home. But I would say, and I'm on carpeted floor, so I mean it's a thin carpet with a little bit of pad, and it's very old, so it's matted down. But that's 81 inches. It wasn't even close to 78. I mean, that's as close as it's going to get to 78. So that's the only discrepancy. So just give yourself a couple inches in height there, and I don't think you'll have an issue. I mean, I have 9-foot ceilings in my basement, so it's definitely not an issue. So moving on to the next question in the comments was, how do you do seated rows? Where do you plant your feet, if you can plant your feet? So getting back to that question, like I said earlier, the way I do seated rows, like in a traditional gym, I know what you're saying. You know, you're on the bench. Try to set up here, and there's a foot plate right here, and you kind of put your foot on the foot plate and you reach over and you grab the either a close grip or the wide grip, and you're pulling back, and that gives you, you have that kick plate there. Here you don't necessarily have a kick plate, so let me show you. You don't necessarily have any kick plate down the bottom. I mean, you have the metal stand here, which is pretty sturdy, and like I said, this is steel. It's sturdy construction. When I tell you this thing is built strong, it's built strong. This is steel. It's not going anywhere. So like you said, you can pin your foot up against here, bring this back, or sit back on the bench, and I think you're going to be fine. The other thing you can do is you can get like a block of wood, like a 2x4 if you really wanted to, and just throw it across, from pillar to pillar, and use that as a kick plate. But I'm going to show you what I do. And why I think it works. I have this set up centered. I have the multi-bar because that's what they recommend using for the seated rows. And to me, it really doesn't matter. The instrument you use doesn't make a difference. I mean, you can use the single arm handles and just do single arm. It's all the same. If you do bent over rows, if you do seated rows, it's the same. I think it's a comfort thing for some people and a form thing, depending on how you can get the best form. So I have it set up to 50 pounds. Let's load it up. And I'll show you kind of what I do. So I put my foot here to start off, right behind the foot plate of the bench itself. And then I push myself back, right? And then I grab this either overhand or underhand. So let's pull. And the first rep is always just kind of setting up your rep range. But that's 50 pounds. And I mean, it's It's not hard. So I'm going to unload that. And we're going to go up in weight, because this is what I'm talking about when it comes to like seated rows on on any machine. It's weight dependent, right? So take your weight into account and how much weight you can do, and trying to keep good form. I mean, if you're doing a heavy weight and you got your foot up on a kick plate, most people are throwing that thing. They're throwing it back anyway. And then you want to reach a little bit to stretch out them latissimus and rhomboids. You really want to reach out and pull, but you don't want to use inertia and throw, which the good thing about digital resistance is going to kind of prevent that a little bit. So let me go up. Let's go up to like 90 pounds and see what happens there. Let me load it up. Put my feet behind here and see. It should pull me a little bit. Oh yeah, it's definitely providing some resistance, but I mean the bench isn't moving, and I'm able to get a pretty decent row in. The other option is, like I said, you can take a wider stance and put your toes like at the base of the pillars. Just, you know, put your toes up a little bit, don't crush your toe, and you can pull from there if you like to. I just don't prefer that because I don't like that wide stance. I'm not comfortable there. I think I'm more comfortable in here, and I can even go closer grip if I really want to. I mean, it's not going anywhere. So I'll unload that, and we'll go a little heavier and see what happens. But I'm trying to keep good form the whole time as well. So let's go up, say 114, since that's where it landed. Do the same thing, pin behind the foot plate. And now you're seeing how it's going to start to move. Do you see that a little bit? Because as I'm pushing into the foot plate, it's pushing the seat out from under me, because it's a heavy weight, right? It's a super heavy weight. And technically, I probably shouldn't be pulling that weight because it's really going to mess up my form. So yeah, so now that we have 114 pounds on, what I'm going to do is widen my stance. I'm going to put my feet up on the pillars here, just like that, for support. And they become my kick plate. Now again, I don't like the wide stance. If I'm doing seated rows, I'm probably going to do a lighter weight and just get a good contraction with higher reps, and then I'll do my bent over rows with a little bit of heavy weight or single rows. I think the misnomer is that everyone thinks that to build muscle, you have to go heavy, and it's not true. Going heavy and doing lighter reps will build more strength, and strength is good, and with strength will come growth. But hypertrophy is that 8 to 15 rep range with reasonable weight. You know what I mean? That you're kind of failing at the higher reps there. But heavy weight does grow strength. So you want to grow strength as well. So let's load this up and show you. So yeah, I plant my foot. I don't know if you can see that, but I plant my foot on the base here if I want to go a little bit heavier, and then I pull. Now the only difference is, as you can see, with no kick plate, is I don't get that stretch, you know. And if I try to come back, my legs are too short to get a full stretch. You see what I'm saying? And then it makes it harder for me to pull. So I kind of got to sit up here to get a pull. And I mean, I can get it, and I'm rowing, but I'm not getting the stretch that I want to get. Let me unload that. So yeah, so that's the only downfall is, for me, I like to get that stretch, and I'm not getting that stretch. So seated rows to me are just kind of like, I'm going to go high rep and just concentrate on just squeezing, you know, bringing my elbows back and squeezing for that back muscle, the latissimus, and then doing a higher rep. If I want to get heavier weight, typically what I do is I'll move this bench, hook up the bar, which is 14 pounds, to the base plate, and I'll pull that way. Now, I guess if you're a heavier individual, like heavier than me and maybe even stronger, you could probably crank this thing up to 140 and row like no problem, because you have weight helping hold you down. But us lighter folks trying to do heavy weight equal to or close to our own weight, it's going to be really tricky because it's going to pull, and there's no kick plate. Or there is, I guess you can say, like I said, you can use these pillars, but the reality is I don't like that wide stance with my legs. I feel like there's more strength when they're closer together. So I just probably wouldn't do that particular exercise with a heavy weight. Wouldn't do this particular exercise with a heavy weight for my back. I would just do single arm rows, or I would just do bent over rows on this. Now, the other caveat that I had thought about recently was the benches that they give you, and I don't know about the level up, that bench that has all the cardio stuff with it, but the bench that they give you doesn't incline and decline. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go out and purchase a bench just from like Dick's or something that inclines and declines, because I like to do incline dumbbell presses as well. And then what I can maybe do there is do like some, like bring the incline bench up. If you've seen them in the gym, they lay like this with the bench here, and then do some rows that way up to the back of the bench. And then gravity's working for me, because now I'm pushing down into the floor as opposed to pushing into the wall or into the machine. But I guess that's going to be a problem with anything, right? Like if you have the tonal, there's no kick plate on that either, right? I mean, I thought about, hey, if the tonal's on the wall, you can put your foot on the wall, but the arms come out in an angle. So again, you're not getting that reach. You have to really back up off of it to pull. So no matter what, it's going to be difficult. That machine in itself in the gym is strictly particular to, kick plate, strictly particular to that machine, that exercise. But it's, in my opinion, no different than if you're doing a bent over row or a one arm row. I mean, it's a row. It's the same thing. It's just you're seated as opposed to bent over. And I guess if you have back issues, it's different. But again, I think with back issues, if you get an inclined bench and you kind of, bring your legs back and you lay across it, keeping your back straight, and you're pulling up to the bench, I mean, you're not going to get a super contraction, but you probably get like right here. As long as you're squeezing that muscle, you get the same workout. And again, like I said, there are workarounds. You're not going to get that full stretch, but you can still work it. I still feel it. So yeah, I mean, until I figure something else out, I mean, I would either do a lighter weight, brace your feet on the foot plate here. You can do a wide stance, brace it on the pillars. Like I said, get a piece of wood if you want. I mean, this is going to hold it. Put it across the base plate. Maybe rig something up yourself where you kind of have the wood that bases here and then kind of goes back into your wall, and then make your own kick plate. I mean, that's an option, but not something I would really worry about or do. So yeah, hope that answers your question. I know it was kind of lengthy, but there's a lot to it with the question, because it all depends on the weight you're trying to pull and how much you can really pull without losing form and getting form. So at least that's my opinion. Again, I'm not a fitness trainer, but I have been working out for a long time. Like I said, I've done shows, but yeah, that's my opinion on that. So I don't know if I posted pictures about this as well, but I figured out the noise in the shackle on the deck plate. And it's basically coming from metal rubbing metal in the shackle. So like there's a bearing or a wheel that the cord spins on, and there's supposed to be space between it, like on either side. And one side has space, but the other side doesn't, and it's kind of rubbing on the metal. And I looked at the other side, the other shackle, and that's got space on both sides. So I did talk to the OxeFit. They're going to send somebody out to replace the shackle. Again, the customer service is outstanding. They are going to replace the shackle. That's the noise. They're going to send somebody out to fix that. We got the firmware updates. I'm going to see if that fixes the exercise library filter. But I hope that answers a couple of the questions about the dimensions, about the seated row, and how I do it and how I would do it. Again, I don't think it's any different from any of the machines out there. There's really no kick plate. So if you're looking for something traditional like that, you're probably going to have to either buy a separate machine or go to the gym. But I think with what it provides, you're going to have no problem working out your back whatsoever. There's enough opportunity there, and a couple other accessories you can use, and you're good to go. So yeah, other than that, this hopefully was a quick video. I'm going to throw out another video. If you got value out of what you're seeing, please like, subscribe, get notifications, follow me. I appreciate it. Thanks for the comments. You guys are giving me some motivation to keep going. We're going to have some cool videos coming out, so stay tuned.